I'm Mindy Peterson, and this is Enhanced Life with Music, where we explore the ways music can make our lives better and spotlight the resources you can use to enhance your life with music. I'm so excited to bring today's guest to you. I'm a huge fan of education and holistic lifelong learning, whether it takes place in the four walls of a school or in any other environment. And today's guest pretty much covers all the bases. She has a background as an educator, performing artist, author, speaker, podcaster, and more. Genein Letford is the founder of adult and K-12 training programs that develop brain capital and 21st century skills through arts integration. She and her team have empowered employees, teachers, and corporate leaders in using the arts to increase leadership and brain health skills. Genein advocates that the arts can lower dementia risks and increase creative thinking in non-arts areas. She has written numerous books on these topics and speaks around the world sharing this message. She claims that teaching brain health through the arts will be, quote, a new way of learning for a new way of leading. Love that. Welcome to Enhanced Life with Music, Genein.
I'm so honored to meet you and be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. It's great to have you here. Looking forward to this conversation. And there are so many different directions we could go in a conversation, I know. You have so many outlets for your message, and I want to hit the highlights of those so that listeners can check out the ones that are best suited for their purposes. But first, how do you describe what you do and why you do it? I know there are so many different outlets that you have for this message. Is there a way that you describe sort of the common umbrella that they all fall and fit under?
Yes, I believe this is an idea that has met its time. We're in a huge shift nationally, even globally. And so understanding just the importance of brain health, or a new term that's being introduced, something called brain capital, which is brain health and brain skills like creativity, curiosity, adaptability, resilience, neural resilience, and brain health. And so you're an educator. When you teach kids, you have to have different methods of teaching because, just kids learn in different ways in different days, which
Right.
was a quote at our school. Right. And so, with some, you're singing or you're doing acting or you're reading or just different ways to reach everyone and help them have access to the information. And so that's what I do. I'm a teacher by trade, taught third grade for a while, then ran the music and arts program at my K-12 in Canoga Park, ran a gifted program. And I do keynotes. I had a stutter growing up. I still stutter today. So I had a speech impediment. And it's funny now that my main way of connecting with people is speaking.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible.
Life has a funny way of showing up. So I do keynotes. I get on stage in front of tens or thousands, just speaking the importance of the arts and especially music, especially during this critical time when we need new solutions. We need people who can see solutions that other people are missing and think in new ways. And I really believe it's the game changer for your next wave of leaders coming through. So I keynote, I write books, leadership books for adults, but also my 7-year-old son, Genein Letford, and his father and I, we call them inner child books. They look like children's books, but they're actually for adults as well. And
inner child books. I
yes.
like that.
We're trying to start a whole new literary group. We have fiction, nonfiction, and inner child books.
Yes. Oh, cool.
And just those books about creativity, but also the brain and even ways that we can lower dementia starting earlier in the lifespan. I have our own podcast, like you mentioned, the Create and Grow Your Brain Capital podcast. And of course, being a teacher, I do workshops for corporate, but I have my foot in K-12 just because that's where I came from. And I have credibility there, right? I'm not that person like, why are you talking to us? You've never been in a classroom. Well, sure. I have been in a classroom, all types of classrooms, all backgrounds. And yeah, just trying to get the word out. I'm that person who could read journals, 8-point font journals, and then go and teach it to an 8-year-old. I believe that's my gift to the world.
Love that. Well, I like in a lot of your materials, I saw this phrase, preventing dementia while building a strong brain that will flourish with creativity and connection. And that is a message and a model that we need for all of us at all ages. And you certainly speak to all of those different ages. I know you do corporate keynotes, you do nonprofit work, you do work in schools, so you do cover so many bases. Talk to us a little bit about those different audiences that you do speak to. So let's start with maybe adults
Mhm.
and your keynote speaking for corporate leaders, employees. Is that the prismatic leadership that I saw on your website?
Yes, well, when you walk outside and it's a sunny day, you're surrounded by sunlight, but what do people don't understand is you're surrounded by rainbows. Have you ever thought about that? Literal rainbows. You just can't see them because you don't
Mm,
have a prism, right?
okay.
If you have a ring on or you can see the rainbow colors in a ring, or if it's raining, right? Water droplets act as a prism. That's why we can
Yeah.
view rainbows depending on where you are in relation to the sun. And that really rung deep with me that prismatic leaders are leaders who can see the hidden colors in people or
Ooh.
themselves, and they can pull out those traits, right? And so I tell people I'm very blessed to have started my career in K-5, right? Because no one's going to look at a 5-year-old and say, okay, in 5 years, if you're exactly the same person you are today, then, oh well. No, that's a huge red flag. In 5 years, if this kindergartner has not developed physically, emotionally, and academically, that's a huge red flag. But with adults, we don't say to a 30-year-old, okay, in 5 years, if you haven't changed at all, then, we don't really see it that way because we can't see them growing and evolving. But prismatic leaders are the ones who could see those inner traits and put people in position so they can discover those own inner skills and abilities and courage, right? It's really coming into a point in our workforce where we need leaders. Adam Grant talks about this in his book, Hidden Potential. We need leaders who can pull out the potential of people. And that's why my logo of my Cafe Strategies, my for-profit company, is a diamond, because our leaders today, they have to be multifaceted. They have to be able to be prismatic and see things that other people don't see in order to get the best out of their team members.
Yeah, love that. And I know it has been in the news recently how a lot of parents who are working in Silicon Valley, working in computer science, are actually telling their kids to go into the creative arts because they feel that that's where the future is because of some of the things that you're talking about, some of those skills that are developed, the creative thinking, the curiosity. And they
Mhm.
feel like that's really what's going to give their kids the leg up, the advantage going into the workforce in another 5, 10 years. So, I mean, certainly going into the creative arts has its own challenges when that's what you go into educationally, but totally agree with some of those core skills that are learned through
Mhm.
being in the arts.
Well,
And
I'll jump in there if I
yeah,
can, because
yeah,
it's a critical point, and I want to make sure you go a little bit deeper in that. Is I believe, and research is showing that it is the game changer, and the fact that this was a norm, like 200 years ago, for people who had access to school, but now it's a luxury,
the
right?
Norm was to
Music,
have that arts
yeah.
education, you
Just
mean?
you had music. It was the norm. You came together to sing together. You painted. And if you look at your top scientific thinkers like Einstein, George Washington Carver, a lot of them had an arts background,
Well,
right?
and you mentioned in your book, and you're kind of, I think, pointing back to Adam Grant's book that
Hmm.
there's so much like 22 times higher odds of getting the Nobel Prize for those
Yes.
who have arts backgrounds, which was
Yes.
fascinating. I had never seen that correlation before.
And there's a neurological reason before it. So what I do now is I'm like that connector. I bring the brain research instead of, you and I, we've been saying this. This is what we do, right? We tell people music is important. If you have the resources, sadly, we have to say that. If you have the resources, put your child in music, give your child piano classes or violin or what have you. And neurologically, the fact that my son has been doing piano since 5, he's 7 now, and he's been on the recorder, and he was playing bells at 2, and his piano teacher said he has perfect pitch. The fact that he has that training His brain, like a neuroscientist can look at his brain and tell he's a musician.
Sure.
Neuroscientists can't look at a brain and say, "Oh, that's a construction worker, that's a lawyer, that's a cashier."
Or
But
that's a
they can
soccer
look,
player. Yeah.
yes, but they can look and see if it's a musician. Now that's where it becomes a justice issue, because now my son's brain is neurologically mapped to have higher pathways for connection, right? So the adult ideas and the thoughts can be connected, to be able to shift perspective more. And just like you said, those transferable skills. Now, he may not grow up to be a professional musician. He might. But the transferable skills, that cognitive flexibility and shifting is going to be key. The pattern making and pattern breaking recognition, the sensitivity to patterns and emotional data, that's going to be key. So whether your kids go into music professionally or not, or to dance or visual art or theater, that's just a bonus win, I
Right.
think.
Right.
But it's those transferable skills which are going to separate.
Well, and you referenced too the 2025 World Economic Forum. They list top core skills that are needed in the workforce and in life in general. And those, you point out how those are developed in arts training. Talk about what some of those different skills are.
Sure. Just, Google it and you'll see it. A few, like 2 or 3 are still tech skills, right? Especially with cybersecurity gaining ground. But like 5 to 7 of them are your brain skills. And they're your ability to have, something called social influence. I ran the musical theater program at my school. Talk about kids learning how to speak in front of people and create prosody in their voice, which is, that musical inflectuation, and command a stage. They're 3rd grade doing The Lion King, but transferable skills. So creativity, innovation, which we know creativity drives in innovation, and curiosity drives creativity. And just leadership skills, social skills, emotional regulation. Leaders who do not know how to regulate their emotions, they will not be in that position for long.
Or if they don't have self-awareness.
Self-awareness is huge.
Yeah.
And so what we are positioning is these not only build the brain skills like that we just listed, but they also help in brain health. Keeping the brain healthy, vibrant, optimized, right? And as you mentioned before, dementia preventing. I'm in Arizona. We have the top Alzheimer's cases in the nation.
Because of the age of the demographic of the population?
I don't know what's causing it. A lot of people are moving to Arizona, so they're bringing their brains with them. And I'm a transplant from California, but this is key. What we're finding out is Alzheimer's and dementia and Parkinson's and the other cognitive diseases are not an elderly issue. Alzheimer's can show up in the brain during midlife, which means it's a childhood, infancy concern. And the data is that my son and I are writing our next book called The Rainbow Brain, right? And I have rainbows coming in my room now because of the crystal that I have up. And so I love rainbows, but those 7 colors represent the 7 pillars of a strong, healthy brain capital type of brain. So you have, of course, your food and your social interaction, but other organizations have 6 pillars. We added the arts as a 7th pillar just because the research is clear that the arts need their own pillar. It is an injustice to take away the arts from a developing human, we feel, and that's the work that we're doing now.
One of my favorite ways to enhance my life with music is to play just for fun songs on the piano at the end of the day. My current favorites are ABBA songs and songs from the 80s, like We Are the World. With Sheet Music Direct, I can explore new music, track my favorites, play and download scores anytime from any device. This online treasure trove of digital sheet music is powered by music publisher Hal Leonard and has over 1 million arrangements, ready to view, listen to, and download instantly. Prices start at just 99 cents and include selections for every instrument, genre, and skill level. My family has relied on Sheet Music Direct for years for musical joy and convenience. For an entire musical library at your fingertips, visit sheetmusicdirect.com. If you've listened to this podcast for long, you know that in addition to being passionate about music, I am also passionate about natural health and well-being. So I was intrigued to learn about an all-natural toothpaste developed by a biologic holistic dentist to effectively clean and protect teeth and strengthen enamel without fluoride or the many chemicals that are ubiquitous in the commercial toothpaste that I've always used without a second thought. What really caught my attention was that one of these dentist products was specially formulated for sensitive teeth, which I have thanks to gum recession. I was a little skeptical that an all natural product would provide adequate sensitivity protection, but after trying it for several months, I am a fan. What clinched the deal was going to my 6-month dental cleaning and having my hygienist rave about the whiteness of my teeth. To learn more about the Living Well sensitive tooth powder and their other products and get 10% off your order, check out the link in the show notes or use coupon code MUSICENHANCES10 at livingwellwithdrmichelle.com. Well, I sort of took us out of our pathway there of having you explain the various audiences that you speak to. But you talked about the keynote speaking. You mentioned just briefly the cafe strategies. Can you talk a little bit more describing that?
So when I left the classroom, that was my first company. So we did a lot of corporate training about something called intercultural creativity, how cultural competence affects our ability to think creatively. So people who really can connect with people from different lived experiences, those are the same cognitive skills that you need to think creatively, like, empathy, curiosity, perspective shifting. So we did a lot of training with that. Just a lot of diversity training, and that was really big, and it should be still big. And then we do neurosomatic creativity, which is helping people connect the mind, body, and brain together to increase their leadership skills by using the arts so they can be great leaders in non-arts areas.
Okay.
So how can an accountant be a better accountant by picking up music? How can a lawyer be a better lawyer by taking an improv class? Or a better surgeon by taking up painting?
Sure. So we have the prismatic leadership. We have cafe strategies. Tell us about Lyrics and Leadership Institute.
Yes. So Cafe Strategies is a part of the intercultural creativity, neurosomatic creativity, and prismatic leadership. Those are our training programs and mostly geared towards adults. And we really wanted to really bring in brain health, right, and leadership skills together in a fun, interesting way. Not everyone's like me that will sit in an 8-hour lecture and read an article from the Neuroscience Journal. Like, I love it, but that's not everyone's cup of tea.
Sure.
So how do we make brain health, and the 7 pillars of building brain capital fun? Why don't we take something that people already know and love and connect it to that? And so I am a big proponent that music isn't just for us to sing to and dance to. We can learn some pretty deep things, especially if you're looking at the lyrics of artists who really were great at songwriting and metaphorical lyric writing and really were deep thinkers and just put it in the music, right? And so we're like, music moves people, music attached, I can play songs from when you were 12 and take you right back there, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we use that? And so that's what Lyrics and Leadership is. How do we take use or inspire by the music of iconic artists that you know and love and create a community around our love for that artist, but also learn emotional regulation, leadership skills, brain health skills, deep thinking skills, which is a way to starve off dementia and Alzheimer's, right? This ability to think deeply about concepts and then connect with people with different lived experience about that. So that's Lyrics and Leadership. It's an online platform where people can come together and grow and learn.
And you've used that training with some non-traditional demographics. I think you've used it with at-risk youth. You've used it for women coming out of jail, homeless centers. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. We partner. So part of people's tuition, because there's just a small tuition, less than $20 a month. Like you can pay more to go, to a fast food place, which isn't good for your brain, by the way. But I mean, it costs more it costs more to take a family of 3 to like McDonald's than this. But we believe in democratizing it. So now with Cafe Strategies, like you have to bring me into a corporation for me to do my training. So I just really said, how can I bring this to the people in a way that's accessible to everyone. And most people can afford $19.99 a month. Um, and and that's really just to have buy-in, right? Because sometimes you don't really take seriously things you get
Sure.
for free
Definitely.
all the time. Um, and part of that goes to we go to New Friends Homeless Center, located in the valley north of Los Angeles, and we bring this training to people who are there and bring in the importance of the arts. And we even sing together. And now, because of us, they started their own karaoke time, which is
Oh, that's
great.
awesome.
But you know how music just changes the atmosphere, right?
Yes.
And that's what we want. You know, if they need an hour and a half of just forgetting their current issue, then let's have music be a part of that experience. And then we just finished our
Well,
6 week.
it's a healthy coping mechanism. It's a
It is.
healthy escape. Yeah.
It is, and we
And
don't.
obviously, you're training them to make use of those tools even when you're not there. The
That is true.
karaoke is a perfect example of that.
That is true. And, you know, I don't know if you interviewed Dr. Daniel Levitin on
Yeah.
your show, and he's amazing. He's definitely one of my mentors. And I actually got to have coffee with him once. And he talks about all the neurochemicals that are flooded in the brain when you sing or you play music. And so the data's there. We just need to get it to the everyday person,
Sure.
right? And we need to reframe it that the arts belong to all of us because of our culture, and especially in the European, the historical ways of, okay, Beethoven's the composer. He does art in the symphony. The rest of you just sit and listen. You know, it's kind of like, but art belongs to all of us. The
Uh,
arts belong to all of us. And so how do I better democratize this? Um,
sure.
and then we also, we just finished up our 6 week pilot program teaching Brainalicious Adventures. I just love making
Love
up
the
terms.
name of that, Brainalicious Adventures.
Once again, how do you make neuroscience fun, to an 11-year-old, to an 8-year-old,
So the Brainalicious Adventures is your K through 12 version of lyrics and leadership, right?
Yes, yeah. How do you
Okay.
use arts? And so with that, we teach, of course, brain health and just get them excited about, hey, you have this organ up here that is bigger than the universe, that can do more than the universe. Do you know that it's there and how to use it and optimize it? It's really that introductory aspect. But we use our books, My Brain, My Beautiful Brain, and I Am Creative, and The Power of I Am. And the next one coming out, Baby Oh Baby, which is geared towards mothers and fathers who just had infants. But we get them excited about their brain. But
And
we
those
also
books, I'm just going to quick
Mhm.
interject here. Those are your inner child books, right? That
Yes,
you
yes,
wrote with your son. So you
with a
started
child.
writing. Yeah. So you started writing these with him when he was 5. Is that how old
3,
you? 3 when the first
3.
one was written.
Yes, and it
And
was mhm.
yeah, and listeners can't see this, but I'm holding up the copy of
Yay!
My Beautiful Brain, which I love because it is one of those books that any age can get
Mhm.
something out of this. You
Yes.
talk about the different parts of the brain. So there's a sort of this introduction to neuroscience, and kids learn and adults learn about the different parts of their brain and what each part does, what it's responsible for. But then you also kind of get into the different ways of learning too, the different
Mhm.
styles of learning. And you, as you mentioned at the beginning, kids learn in different ways on different days.
Yes.
And yes, and this kind of highlights some of those different 8 intelligences that
Yes, right.
some
Howard
of us
Gardner. Mhm,
yes,
mhm.
yes. So anyways, just a quick interjection. And your husband did the illustrations for those books.
Yes.
So you have like the family dream team there with the creative
It's a
team there.
blessing. Yeah, it's a blessing because that could be a high cost, especially for those, illustrations. We did have to contract out for the actual people, but Shane put them all together. In the book that's
Okay.
coming out, for World Brain Day, Shane did all the illustrations for
Okay.
that. Mhm.
So anyway, I kind of interrupted you there, but the Brainalicious Adventures utilizes
Yeah.
those inner child books.
Mhm. For a
And
full curriculum. So we take
okay.
each page and or we take each intelligence, and then I give the parent or the teacher, because I'm connected to the homeschool community. So this is for homeschoolers. This is for teachers. This is for whoever. I've even had like adults bring this to their team members, because
Oh, I
sometimes you want
bet.
a simple prompt. Some people won't read a 250-page book, but you can
Exactly.
get deep with 4 sentences. I wake up every morning, I try to start my day by thinking I'm creative in every single way. I can have a long 2-hour conversation on those four sentences. Like,
Sure.
how do you wake up? Do you grab your phone? Do you grab the negative news? What's the first thing you say to yourself? So there's a lot embedded in 4 lines.
Yes, agree. You have those children's books that we just mentioned. You also have adult books. Tell us just in a nutshell about your books for adults.
Sure. We have the 7 gems of intercultural creativity. So they go through the 7 gems, the 7, because I love the metaphor of diamonds, but they show how cultural competence and creativity actually sit on the same set of skills. But we just go over 7 of those skills. And then I took that business book because I do have a foot in K-12, and I turned the business book into a K-12 book. So I'm talking to teachers, to parents, to people who are raising up the next generation
Mm,
of saying, hey, here's mindset for you. Because a lot of times the teacher themselves needs to do the work, right? What is my relationship with creative thinking? What is my relationship to artistic thinking? That's huge. A lot of times teachers won't bring in the arts because they themselves are not comfortable with executing in that art. So now you have a class of 20 to 36 kids who have no access to that art because of your trepidation with it or your relationship with it. So we have to come and deal with that, right?
yeah. I know you have integrated some kind of music curriculum for older students. I think it's like an arts integration course.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit more about that because I work in my day job with a lot of music department faculty, and I'd love
Mhm.
to hear more about what you're doing with, I think California State University is where you've been working with
Yes,
this
yes.
arts integration course. Tell us about that.
Sure. At the beginning of my keynote, I tell people, yeah, I'm teaching a 4-year-old, and then my nonprofit back then, Alumni 360, a 14-year-old, and then I go to California State University and 34-year-old, and then I'm on the board of donorshoes.org, which is a great website for people to get instruments and stuff. So in like 1 week, I'm working with like the whole pipeline,
Yeah,
but which is amazing. It increased my perspective to really what the narrative is across
I bet.
the lifespan. But my work at California State University, I got to work in the master's program for teachers who are getting their masters. And really, how do you integrate this into the curriculum? Because I don't know about your day, but my day is like, do not give me one more extra thing in my day.
Right,
I have no time.
right.
So the key is integration, I believe, for the arts and for brain health, because it's such an important thing right now, because we can lower dementia cases by starting in childhood. And so what I talked with the teacher is look for narrative in your academic curriculum, look for story, and look for just ways to enter the curriculum or explore through the curriculum or exit. Right. So at the beginning of the year, we do, and I call it the periodic table of the arts, right? The elements, you know how the periodic table
Yeah,
has all the elements of physicalness, right? Oxygen
yeah,
and
yeah.
gold. Well, the arts have the same thing for music. It's pitch and tempo and rhythm, and visual art. It's color and space and texture. And it's the kids' ability to combine and recombine these elements to tell their story or to communicate their response to a prompt or what have you. If they have the ability to do that well, oh, they can create anything. And so that's what we taught the teachers at CSUN. Let's say you're teaching the one and only Ivan, which is a story about a gorilla that's
Yep.
trapped in a mall. And the kids really had to, go through their normal academic experience and read it and talk about character development and all the ELA, the English language arts standards. But then, okay, if Ivan were going to sing a song to Ruby, what would he sing? Or if you're going to, the kids chose the melody, when the night has come, and then, they chose that melody, but then they changed the words to have the character. So they have to think about what position is Ivan, who is Ivan, and what is his relationship with this character. Because it might be a different song if he was singing to the dog or
Mm.
to the shopkeeper, right? And so I could have a kid write an essay about that, which writing is important, but to have that musical element. So what tempo are you going to choose? What's the rhythm? Is it 4/4 or is it 3/4? I'm teaching the music elements, but the child, the student is still doing the work.
Uh-huh.
And then Catherine Applegate actually came to our school, right? The author of the one and only Ivan, and the kids composed a movement piece, and it's actually online. And I can send you that link if you want to put it in the show notes.
Sure,
And
sure.
and Catherine Applegate was in the back of the gym crying,
Oh,
and I told the students, like, yeah, you took her work and then you interacted with it and you gave it back to her in a way she's never seen before. That
mm,
move, and to this day, that was in 2000 and I don't know, 9 or something. I'm still in contact with her now, and she still says that's one of the best school visits she has ever experienced
oh,
because she's
wow.
never experienced anything like that. And that's what the arts do. They change the brain in positive ways and they increase memory tenfold. And I'm still in contact with my students who are, in their 20s. A few of them are married and have kids now,
Sure.
and they remember those times, right?
Mm,
They remember. That's what the arts do.
wow. So tell me a little bit more about that. That you said that's what the arts do. How did you come from? I mean, if we even go back to college, you were a
Mhm.
college athlete, so you have a background in that. When you were an educator, it wasn't a music educator, right? It was like
No,
general education.
general
So
ed.
how did you go from that background to being so passionate about what the arts and especially music, just because that's our focus here on this
Mhm.
podcast, but how did you become so passionate about the ability of the arts to develop these skills, these life skills in people, but also brain health and dementia prevention?
Well, I say that life has a funny way of teaching me because it takes me through the experience to learn it, so I have to see it firsthand. It's good to learn by watching other people, but I learned it firsthand. As I said, I mentioned before, I have a speech impediment. I stuttered all through my life. There's times when I woke up and couldn't even say my name fluently, and I have a twin sister who won speech debates and everything, and then here I am, can't even speak or say my name. And it was music that gave me my voice. I don't know if you know about the brain and music, but for people who stutter, especially severely, they don't stutter when they sing.
Right.
And there's many neurological reasons for it, but I would sing, and then my mother, brilliant, Gwen Jefferson, brilliant woman who really was aware of this. She didn't really have a music background, but she knew. She said a professor told her, and when she was in school, so she was like, "Whatever you do, put your kids in music." And then he turned around and kept teaching, but she never forgot that, right? And
Mhm.
I'm so grateful to whoever that person was. And so she put us in music in elementary school, and that was a game changer for me. I picked up the trumpet, and the trumpet became my voice while I was still trying to figure out where my voice actually was.
Mm,
And she put us in theater. And I realized when I memorize word lines, I stutter less.
mm,
Right.
mhm.
And we were in dance. And so that's why if you ever see a keynote of me, I move a lot because movement helps me speak more clearly.
Okay.
So I would not have known this had I not struggled. And,
Okay.
a friend asked me, Janine, if you could be born again without your stutter, would you do it? And of course, the initial answer is, oh, well, yeah, who wants to deal with that? But I wouldn't be the woman who I am today had I not went through that struggle. And
Mm,
now that struggle and that discovery helps me advocate for arts ed for all, because whoever's listening to this podcast, you have a student or a child or a niece or nephew or a kid down in the street who needs the arts in order to start their mental discovery of who they are, right?
mm, mhm.
And so that's really what got me passionate. And then I just started connecting the dots of seeing what was happening to the brain. So I'm going to throw out a few names if people want to go look. Dr. Nina Kraus is showing that the brain overlaps with the language part and the music part. The music activates multiple areas of the brain at the same time, and language aspect. So there's the opera model, and that's
Oh,
Dr.
mhm.
Annie Patel of the part of the language brain and the music brain overlap. And so I tell people, and this is what I did with my kid in the womb, build their auditory system first. And the best way to do that is music. My kid has very sensitive pitch discrimination because I built his auditory system first. So it helps with his reading, his prosody, his
Mm,
his rhythm. Do not teach kids how to read if their auditory system hasn't been adequately trained, because reading and language is just sounds, right? You connecting graphs to sounds. So that's huge. And so, yeah, to answer your question, I saw it in my own life earlier on, and then I saw it with the research. So Dr. Nina Kraus, Dr. Annie Patel, Dr. Charles Lim is a huge advocate for the arts, and of course, Dr. Daniel Levitin, just to name a few.
Yeah. And Dr. Nina Kraus has been on this show a couple times. I'll put links in the show notes to those episodes. She has a book out. Lots of great resources. So thanks for bringing those up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, so fascinating. You also have your own podcast. You have a blog. Tell us just a little bit about your podcast. It's called Create and Grow Your Brain Capital.
Yeah, I like you, which I'm assuming this is for you. I just like talking to people.
Yes. Yes, this is also my passion project.
Yes, and I just need to get a team to do all the work on the back end, but let me just talk to people, right?
Yeah.
Because I do edit. I mean, I'm the photographer, the editor, the video editor. I could do it all, but I don't want to do it all. But what I have figured out, and Dr. Lisa Philman Barrett talks about this, when you talk to people, especially people with a different lived background, just your brain structures and kind of goes along with their experience, like you are with them, right? Or like you are them. And that is healthy for your brain, because my brain, just with me meeting you and hearing you from Minnesota and me sharing with you all my Prince connections, right? My brain needed to restructure in order to fit you in there, right?
And
sort
of like an empathetic, vicarious experience somehow.
Yes. So we're asking our leaders to be empathetic, but we're not giving them the neurological gym to do so, and empathy rests on in-group, out-group, right? But the more I meet people, especially now, when I was doing my podcast, I had to sit with people in-house, the same room, until the pandemic hit. And now I do all my podcasts all over line,
Yeah.
because now I can connect with people around the world that I never dawned on me to do it before the pandemic, right?
Sure.
So that limited my access to great minds. And what we do in the podcast is I have people just tell their story. I have neuroscientists and just people from all walks of life, artists, non-artists, business, entrepreneurs, people who deal with Alzheimer's and dementia as well. But my job is to pull out the creative gems. I'm like, you just shared that story. Did you know that was an example of perspective shifting? Or that was a great example of taking risk, in a new environment. So they're like, really? And that's what I did with my students with my first nonprofit, Alumni 360. I'm like, you have all this gold in your narrative, and you could be using this to write for scholarships, to go for awards and internships. And they're like, what? So that's my job, is to pull out the gems and then to communicate to the audience. These are different ways people show up creatively, because we have a sometimes limited thinking of what creativity looks like. It's not just artistry. My car mechanic is very creative. He doesn't dance, but he's very creative. And really open people's mind to that they are creative. And they could be artistically creative as well. We all should be. And it looks different for different people, but let's own our form.
Yeah, love that. Well, I'll definitely have links in the show notes to all of these different outlets that you have for sharing your message about building up cognitive reserve, brain capital, preventing dementia, whether it's for adults, for kids, for college students, your podcast, your blog, your books, your speaking, all of that. And I even saw, as I was digging into this, that you have a connection between arts and finance. And I was like, oh my goodness, what doesn't she talk about?
Yeah, well, that was my very first book, From Debt to Destiny, Creating Financial Freedom from the Inside Out. And our quote is, your creative health affects your financial wealth. So anything you're going to leave on this earth that's uniquely you, and some of your ideas, especially your entrepreneur ideas, are going to be born from your own creative thinking. And so there's that tie.
Okay. Well, you also have the TEDx talk, brilliant yet broke, the missing tools our kids need to succeed. So I was
Yeah,
like, oh my goodness, there's
I know.
so much treasure here to mine. So I'm sure listeners, whether they are parents with kids in music classes, whether they're college faculty, whether they're K through 12 teachers, parents in general, everybody can find something here to learn more about developing your own cognitive reserve. And it was interesting. I just saw an article today about how music training develops cognitive reserve. And that
Mhm.
particular article was geared toward adults who have dementia, and music training in their past and their background really helped
Yes.
to build up their cognitive reserve, so that in this situation, the study was specifically geared toward them being able to pick out orally sound and differentiate between speech and background
And
noise.
noise, yeah,
As
sound and
yes,
noise.
yes,
Mhm.
which I know Nina Kraus has done a lot of research
She
on
has.
that.
She has.
But just love all of the research that you have done on these topics and the different mediums that you've made the message available in, whether it's keynote speaking, workshops, books, curriculum, and on and on. I just want to read one quote that I loved from one of your books. This is from The Future Classroom of Intercultural Creativity. And in that, you said, the arts, I feel, should be a part of everyone's education and brought into everyone's adult life. In my perfect world, we would all be consumers and producers of art, and not because we wish to be professional artists, but because we are human and desire to reach our full creative potential. If creativity is largely about seeing unobvious connections, then having artistic training will train our eye to see beyond convention. Love that quote. Boom. There we go.
Mic drop.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The book is worth buying just for that right there.
The word idea, I always look up the etymology of words. The word idea is form and pattern. And what is the arts about, right? You're in music, tons of patterns, tons of form.
Yeah.
That's one of the elements. So think about it. If you want
Yes.
great ideas, train your brain to see forms and patterns and connections. And the arts,
Mm,
we feel, are the best ways to train your brain.
mm. Love that. Well, Janine, this has been great. As you know, I ask all my guests to close out our conversation with a musical ending, a coda, by sharing a song or a story about a moment that music enhanced your life. Do you have a song or a story that you can share with us today in closing?
Purple rain, purple rain. I am in the deep studies of Prince Rogers Nelson, and we are, using his work to teach. And the amount of genius and care and just justice and kindness, compassion that this man has shown is unmatched. And for me to just represent him to the world in this new way is an honor. And I want to end with that because for me to give to the world the amount of work that he gave to the world, I don't even know if that's possible, but that is definitely a goal. And he really encouraged people to give what they have to the world. So I just want to leave you all with that. What do you have to give to us? For we are waiting in the purple rain
Mm.
to get through this thing called life, right?
Yes, yes. And someday you'll have to come to Minnesota and we'll go to Paisley Park together.
Now I'm going to hold you to that.
Thank you, Janine, for all she does to enhance brain capital, cognitive reserve, dementia prevention, and more with music. As we discussed, she has something for everyone, for kiddos on up, and especially for those who work with kids, whether you're a parent, grandparent, educator in K-12, or college faculty member. Be sure to check out all the resources that Janine offers. Links are in the show notes to her books, blog, podcast, and other resources. You'll also find a transcript of our conversation and related episodes you may enjoy, including the conversations with the guests Janine mentioned, Nina Kraus and Daniel Levitin, an episode on utilizing multiple intelligences in learning, and how music skills translate to life skills. All Enhanced Life with Music episodes are evergreen, so check out the back catalog for more ways that music can make your life better. If you know of someone who would enjoy this episode, perhaps a parent, educator, or grandparent, please share it with them. You can always connect with me on email, mindy@mpetersonmusic.com, Facebook, Instagram, X, or LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing the show. Until next time, may your life be enhanced with music.